Today, we're diving into a powerful concept that can completely transform the way you connect with women, especially as you grow older. And the surprising part? It has nothing to do with wealth. It has nothing to do with physical appearance. And it certainly has nothing to do with the recycled pickup lines floating around online. The real truth is that two simple words can unlock something much deeper inside the female mind. They trigger emotional connection points most men never even realize exist. And in a moment, I'm going to reveal exactly what those words are. I'll break down why they work psychologically, but there's also a subtle detail almost nobody pays attention to. And that detail is what separates the men women quickly forget from the men who stay on their minds long after the conversation ends. Stay with me all the way through because this insight can radically change the way you communicate. Let me tell you something important. Over the years, I've studied countless interactions between men and women, and one pattern became impossible to ignore. The men who naturally attract women are not always the most handsome. They are not always the wealthiest either. The men who stand out are the ones who understand one essential skill: emotionally direct communication. While most men get trapped in shallow conversations, trying too hard to impress, trying too hard not to make mistakes, the men who truly leave an impact do something completely different. They rely on two words that function almost like emotional keys to the female subconscious. The human brain is wired to respond to certain emotional patterns in communication. And when these two words are used correctly, they create what psychologists call positive emotional anchoring. In other words, they attach strong feelings to your presence. So let's begin. The first phrase is, I want. It sounds almost too basic, doesn't it? But pay attention to what happens when a man says, I want, with confidence and certainty. The moment he says it, he takes ownership of his desires. He isn't seeking approval. He isn't nervously testing boundaries. He is communicating clearly and directly. And here is something crucial about feminine psychology. Women are deeply attracted to men who know what they want. Why? Because certainty communicates leadership. It signals decisiveness. It shows that you are comfortable taking initiative instead of placing all the emotional responsibility on her. Think about the difference for a second. Imagine saying, I don't know, maybe we could hang out sometime if you want. What does that communicate? Hesitation, fear, lack of direction. Now compare it to this. I want to take you out Saturday night. I know a place you'll love. Feel the shift in energy. You're not begging for attention. You're leading the interaction. You're creating momentum and experience. And this is important. Being direct is not the same as being aggressive. Assertiveness is not pressure. It's simply the ability to stand firmly in your intentions and express them without apology. When a man can do that, he activates something powerful known as sexual polarity. He naturally steps into masculine energy through initiative, which often awakens the feminine desire to relax into trust and receptivity. Now let's move to the second phrase, and this is where everything changes. The second phrase is, I appreciate. This is the element most men completely overlook. If you only use I want, you risk sounding self-centered, as if the interaction revolves entirely around your needs. But when you combine I want with I appreciate, you create emotional balance. You become a man who is both decisive and emotionally aware. Here's an example. Instead of saying, I want to see you again, you say, I want to see you again because I genuinely appreciate the way you think. Conversations with you feel rare. Do you see the difference? You're not only expressing attraction, you're showing her that you actually notice her. You recognize something beyond the surface. And that creates a completely different emotional experience. Most men focus only on appearance. They complement beauty, clothing, or physical attraction. But when you acknowledge her mind, her energy, or the way she makes you feel emotionally, you separate yourself from the crowd. You show depth. And here's the beautiful part. Genuine appreciation does not come from emotional neediness. It comes from conscious choice. You are not clinging to her for validation. You are appreciating her because you truly value who she is. Women can sense that distinction immediately. If this message is resonating with you, leave a like below. It tells me you're serious about improving yourself and understanding these dynamics on a deeper level. Now let's talk about the mistake that ruins all of this for most men. The mistake is using these words without congruence. Congruence means your words, body language, energy, and tone all communicate the same message. If you say, "I want to take you out," but your posture collapses, your eyes avoid contact, and your voice sounds uncertain, your message loses power. Your body is communicating insecurity while your words attempt to communicate confidence. And women are incredibly sensitive to emotional inconsistency. The female mind naturally picks up on subtle signals. It works almost like an emotional radar. So when you say, "I want," your body should reflect certainty. Stand upright. Maintain eye contact. Speak calmly and clearly. And when you say, "I appreciate," slow down slightly. Let sincerity come through your tone. Allow the moment to breathe so she can feel authenticity behind your words. Because attraction is never only about language. It is about emotional alignment. That is exactly what I teach inside my complete guide, Attraction Secrets. It's not only about what to say, it's about how to align your energy, your presence, and your communication so your words carry genuine emotional weight. And there's another critical factor most men ignore: timing. You don't walk around mechanically repeating, "I want," and "I appreciate" in every conversation. That feels forced and unnatural. These words matter when they are used intentionally in emotionally meaningful moments. For example, imagine you've just finished a great evening together. You look her in the eyes and say, "I want to do this again. I really appreciate the energy you bring into my life." That's it. You've just created an emotional imprint. Now, whenever she thinks about you, she remembers the feeling of being desired, valued, and emotionally seen at the same time. Now let's shift into something equally important. Have you ever noticed that many women do not flirt directly, especially with older men? Instead, they test your awareness quietly. This becomes even more noticeable once you are over 50. Women behave differently around mature men. They don't want to appear desperate. They don't want to seem overly available. So instead of openly expressing attraction, they communicate through subtle emotional signals. And here is what most men fail to realize. When a woman feels drawn toward an older man, she almost always asks two very specific questions. Hidden inside those questions is a message most men completely miss. Before I reveal them, do me a quick favor. Tap the like button and comment if you've ever realized too late that a woman was actually interested in you. Your support helps this message reach other men who need to hear it. Many men over 50 believe they become invisible to women, especially younger women. But reality often says otherwise. Mature men can become incredibly attractive when they truly understand female psychology. The issue is rarely age. The issue is misunderstanding signals. Too many men move through life assuming a woman is just being nice, when in reality she was quietly opening the door to connection. Women rarely reveal attraction in an obvious way. Instead, they observe your emotional stability, your awareness, and your ability to notice subtle cues. Feminine psychology communicates through nuance. When a woman begins seeing you as emotionally safe and masculine at the same time, her behavior changes. Her conversations shift from casual interaction to intentional curiosity. She begins asking questions designed to reveal three things. First, whether you are emotionally grounded and secure. Second, whether you are emotionally and practically available. And third, whether you are aware enough to recognize genuine interest. That is where the two important questions appear. But to understand why these questions matter so much, you need to understand the psychology behind them. Many older men expect attraction to look direct and obvious because they grew up in a time when communication was often more straightforward. But modern feminine communication works differently. Women usually do not say, "I'm attracted to you," or "I want to get closer to you." Instead, they explore emotionally. Women ask carefully chosen questions to discover whether you are a man they can safely move toward without risking rejection or embarrassment. And here's the quiet fear many women carry, especially around mature men. If she reveals attraction too openly, she worries he might see her as needy or emotionally exposed. So she disguises attraction as curiosity. She hides desire inside questions that sound innocent to a man who isn't paying attention. And if you miss those signals, most women will not repeat them. Women rarely offer the same emotional invitation twice. Feminine communication is layered. Men often express attraction through actions. Women often express attraction through emotionally loaded questions. A man shows interest by offering help, leadership, or protection. A woman often shows interest by asking questions that subtly invite closeness. And while women ask many different things throughout daily life, two questions consistently appear when she feels emotionally drawn toward a mature man. But before revealing them directly, understand something important. She isn't asking because she's nosy. She's asking because she wants to feel your emotional energy. She wants to know, is he calm? Is he emotionally open? Can he handle connection? Does he stand confidently in his masculinity? Or does he hide behind politeness and emotional distance? These questions are not about information. They are about emotional connection. Think of them like small emotional bridges she carefully places between you and her. She wants to see whether you step forward with confidence and awareness. And when you do, everything changes inside her emotionally. Most men answer these questions literally, but emotionally intelligent men understand the deeper meaning underneath them. Because when she asks these questions, she is not collecting facts. She is measuring emotional alignment. She is measuring awareness. She is trying to discover whether you are the kind of man who notices what exists beneath words. A woman who feels attracted to you does not need you to impress her with money, status, or stories. She needs to feel presence, emotional calm, stability. That is why these two questions matter so much. The first question is designed to uncover one thing: your openness, not your schedule, not your availability on paper, your emotional openness. She wants to sense whether your life has room for connection. She's asking herself, can this man emotionally connect? Or has he closed himself off inside routine and isolation? Can I move closer to him without feeling pushed away? Women do not want to invest emotional energy where there is no emotional space waiting for them. And most men completely miss this because they assume she is simply making conversation. The second question explores your direction, not your career goals, not your finances, your inner direction as a man. Women are naturally drawn toward men who feel grounded and purposeful. They open emotionally to men who know who they are. This question helps her feel, does this man move through life with intention? Is he emotionally awake? Does his presence feel safe and stable? Or is he drifting without purpose? Because a woman may feel physical attraction toward a man, but she only moves emotionally closer when she desires his presence. And for mature men, these questions carry even more weight. By the time a man reaches his 50s or 60s, many women assume he has already lived through most of his emotional chapters. So before stepping closer, they quietly check whether there is emotional room left for someone meaningful. That is why these two simple questions matter so much. They are her way of checking whether she could truly fit into your world. You can miss compliments, you can miss body language. But if you miss these questions, you may miss the exact moment a woman was opening the door to intimacy. And most women will not reopen that door once it closes. So here they are. The first question. Do you spend a lot of time alone? It sounds harmless, but emotionally, it means much more. She's really asking, is there room for someone in your life? Women ask this in many forms. Do you usually keep to yourself? Are you seeing anyone lately? You seem independent. Is that true? Do you enjoy being alone most of the time? This question is not about loneliness. It's about emotional access. If she felt no attraction toward you, she would not care how you spend your evenings. But if she feels drawn to your calmness and maturity, she wants to know whether closeness is possible. Most men answer too literally. Yeah, I'm alone a lot. Not really. Depends. But a grounded man hears the emotional meaning underneath the question. She is testing openness. A better response sounds calm, steady, and emotionally balanced. I enjoy my own space, but I always appreciate good company. Or, I value my routines, but I'm open to someone meaningful entering my life. Notice what that communicates. You are emotionally available without sounding needy, strong without seeming emotionally closed. That balance is incredibly attractive. And naturally, if the emotional energy continues growing, she often asks the second question. What are you looking for these days? This question is never casual. It is not ordinary small talk. A woman asks this when she is exploring you as a potential romantic presence in her life. She may phrase it differently. What do you want at this stage of life? What matters to you now? What kind of direction are you moving toward? What are you hoping to build these days? But emotionally, the purpose is always the same. She wants to understand your direction as a man. Women need to feel that a man knows himself. They need to feel he is emotionally alive, intentional, and grounded. This question tells her whether you are moving through life consciously or simply existing. When men answer with uncertainty like, I don't know. I'm just taking life day by day. I'm figuring things out. Women often interpret that as emotional drifting, and women rarely invest deeply in men who drift. Masculine clarity does not require a perfect speech. It only requires direction. You could simply say, I'm building a calmer and more meaningful chapter of life. Or, I'm focused on real connection and experiences that actually matter. Or, I want peace, growth, and people who bring value into my life. These answers communicate emotional purpose. They show movement, stability, and awareness. And most importantly, they create space for her to imagine herself becoming part of your world. Because here is something many men over 50 never fully understand. Women are deeply attracted to men who are emotionally awake. Not just physically present, emotionally alive. And that is exactly what these two questions are designed to measure. When she asks whether you spend time alone, she is measuring openness. When she asks what you are looking for, she is measuring direction. And when a man combines emotional openness with purpose, he becomes magnetic. Women do not require perfection. They require clarity. Because clarity creates emotional safety. And emotional safety creates attraction. Imagine a real-life moment. You're sitting with a woman in a cafe, bookstore, or quiet conversation online. The interaction flows naturally. She laughs softly. She maintains eye contact. There's warmth in the energy between you. Then she asks, "So, do you spend much time alone?" That is her first emotional step toward you. If you respond with grounded openness, she feels encouraged. If you shut the moment down emotionally, the connection weakens immediately. Then later she asks, "What are you looking for these days?" That is the deeper checkpoint. She is now deciding whether moving closer to you emotionally feels safe and meaningful. If your response communicates calm direction, attraction grows. If it communicates confusion or emotional emptiness, she pulls back. These moments are not random, they are emotional gateways. And women rarely ask these questions unless they already feel something. So remember this carefully. A woman who desires emotional closeness usually will not announce it directly. Instead, she asks, "Are you emotionally open? Do you spend a lot of time alone? And are you emotionally alive? What are you looking for these days?" These questions are not about logistics, they are about energy. When you learn to recognize them, you stop feeling confused about attraction. You begin understanding the emotional language women naturally use. And before you leave, comment the phrase, "I see the signs" below if this message connected with you. Your engagement helps this reach more men who need to hear it. Women communicate attraction in subtle and emotional ways, especially around mature men. Older men are often viewed differently than younger men. Women expect greater presence, more emotional depth, and stronger self-awareness from them. A younger man may still be figuring himself out, but a mature man is often expected to know who he is. That is why women test older men emotionally rather than through obvious flirting. When a woman asks questions about your openness or direction, she is not simply gathering information. She is trying to feel your emotional landscape. She wants to know, will approaching this man feel safe? Will he understand emotional connection? Does he truly see me? And that brings us to something even deeper. Because in the end, attraction is not really about status, possessions, or performance. It's about emotional presence. And nowhere does that matter more than during emotionally charged seasons like Christmas. Christmas is not truly about gifts, decorations, or traditions. At its core, it is about connection. It is about making someone feel valued, understood, and emotionally close. For many women, the holidays intensify emotions. Memories return, expectations rise, vulnerability increases. The season creates an emotional atmosphere where connection feels even more meaningful. If you truly want to touch a woman's heart during Christmas, it is not about spending excessive money or trying to impress her with grand gestures. It comes down to 3 essential things that communicate care, emotional intimacy, and genuine understanding. The first is deep listening. Not simply hearing her words, but paying attention to the emotions underneath them. The holiday season often causes people to reflect on the past year, on hopes, disappointments, memories, and desires. When you listen attentively without distraction or judgment, you create emotional safety. True listening is active presence. It means noticing her tone, her pauses, and the feelings hidden beneath what she says. And women immediately recognize when a man is genuinely emotionally attentive because it reflects real investment in who she is inside.